Thank you very much for welcoming me to your lovely island. Now, Greg said I'm not going to be talking about physical exercise. The physio in me makes me want to do that. It's part and parcel of who I am. So if you want to stand up, turn around and sit down, I'm quite happy for you to do that. So do that if you want to. Just stand up and stretch, because I'm a physical therapist, and that's what we do. Stand, have a stretch, very quickly. There you go, and you feel better for it. Sit yourself down. Okay, so here I am on your wonderful island. I never really thought I'd come to Guernsey, but it's my delight and a pleasure to be here with you. I have friends who work in Jersey. I don't think I know anyone personally in Guernsey, but they tell me that the islands are actually quite beautiful and wonderful to work in. The people are nice to work with. Physiotherapy is great to practice on the island, and they love it. Hi, I think I've got someone in the audience who might know about it. But also, I had a sense of curiosity about Guernsey, because I have a daughter who happens to play tennis. And in her first tournament, aged about 10, many moons ago, she did really, really well and got to the semi-finals. And then she met someone who I think you all know, who knocked her out of the tournament. But you know what? To lose to Heather was no disgrace. And so Guernsey has had attraction for me for some time. And I know that the Dandelion Foundation has at its heart making it one of the most wonderful places to be in 2020. And Heather said that growing up on the island, she felt blessed. And I hope that at the end of my talk, we can find a way of making everybody who lives on this island feel as if they're blessed. And the Dandelion Project, I think, is setting a high aim. And when I heard about it being the best place to live in the world, 2020, I thought, goodness me. But having looked at what I've seen since I've arrived here and hearing the projects and knowing what your island is capable of, I don't think I won't be disappointed, I don't think, in 2020. But it's not only just a place for young people. We have to think what's happening to the older people in Guernsey and around the world. There are several issues of what's happening with older people and why they're becoming more and more isolated. And I think we all know what they are, but we're probably burying our heads a little bit or pushing it away. We know that our families grow and the generations are separating. They're going to live elsewhere. Our family structures mean that there's greater opportunity. We know that we can go anywhere in the world to work, and the jobs are available. But the people who can't move so easily, and perhaps, of course, they're rooted in the place of their birth, and they have family, some family remaining and friends, and they become less ambulant, they're not so free to move. And so they remain in the place where they were born, perhaps. So increasing globalisation is giving us major problems. And what happens is that we know that if you can't move, your network decreases, then depression sets in. And I think you heard this morning that some of the topics we're going to touch on aren't all happy-clappy things. They're about reality, what happens as we get older. And depression is one of those things. But we can change that. And I think that's why I'm standing here. I know that we can change that because I was part of something that actually made such a phenomenal difference. That's why I want to share it with you. I think this is your island. I don't know it very well. I'm getting to know it. And you have nurseries and nursing homes. And we can bring the generations together. And people are challenged by how we might do this. I don't know whether, I'm sure these aren't all the nurseries on the island. People tell me that they're not all the nurseries on the islands. But you've got the nursing homes as well, and they're not very far apart. The island isn't very big, is it? I was thinking, I actually run, and I'm thinking, I could run across the island. You know, it's not that big. And I think, if I can run across the island, we can join up nurseries and nursing homes. So let's see what we have as a template that might help you to get started. This idea of joining up nurseries with older people in nursing homes is not a new one. It's been going for some time. And when we look around the world, America has had programs going for some time. In Virginia Tech, they've joined up older people with cognitive dysfunction, with preschoolers, there's actually an assessment centre in the Virginia Tech, and that's been there for some time. And they've learned, and they've shared what they've learned with the world. And I'll share some of that with you. Then in Seattle, they've also had a nursery school, which has been going for some time. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's how we do it and how we get started. And if it works so well, why aren't we doing it? You know, I've had so many people come to me since we've done the programme saying, I am so excited about what you did. How do we get started? And people want to do something. In the UK, a new nursery opened in a Jewish nursing home this August, and they're flourishing. There are plans for more in Devon and in Chichester, and so it goes on. So here we are, lots of momentum to help us look at how we might change things as they are at the moment. So here we are. This is the programme I was involved in. And just looking at that picture makes me feel quite emotional. We had 11 older adults with 10 children, 10 4-year-olds. And they spent 6 weeks together. And it was life-changing. Not just for the people you see in front of. For me, it's been life-changing. For my colleagues who worked with me, it was life-changing. For everyone who has contacted me, and so many, my email box, my Twitter feed, I can't cope with all the contacts. It's been life-changing. And why has it been life-changing? Because we did something very simple. We set out to show that we can make a difference. But although all these programs have existed for some time, we didn't actually measure the difference it could make. And what I wanted to do, what my colleagues wanted to do, was to measure that difference. And one of my colleagues, who was a gerontologist, researcher, Malcolm Johnson, you probably saw him, he spent his life looking at older people and studying older people. And he had an overview of the programme. My other colleague, who was a geriatrician, worked all the time, routinely, with older people at the QE Hospital in Birmingham. And myself, as a physiotherapist, I was interested in the activity and what is it we could measure and change. So, the measurements. What did we measure? The depression I talked about. Nearly everyone that we talked to on that programme, all the adults, all the residents, had some degree of depression. They were in a home, and if you've seen the home, it's a beautiful home. It's probably one of the best I've seen. Facilities are second to none. And yet we had people here who were depressed. I, as a physiotherapist, wanted to see how long, simple test, you measure how quickly it takes for somebody to get up from a chair, walk 3 meters, walk back to the chair and sit down. So I'd measure that, the time it took for them to do that, literally time it. They could walk with a rollator or their walking stick, it didn't matter. I just timed it to see whether we could make a difference after the 6 weeks. A dynamometer is a grip measurer, and I'll show you that in a moment. And we looked at activities of daily living, how easy was it for them to get out of the bath, get dressed, walk up the stairs, daily things that everyone does, that we take for granted. And then you've heard people talk about measuring activity levels. I put on something similar to the Fitbit. It wasn't a Fitbit. It was an activity tracker, which I put on their thighs so I could measure how often they got up, how often they lied down, how many times they got up in the night, and they wore that for some time. The dynamometer is that machine in the top right-hand corner. We know, research tells us, if you measure the grip strength of someone, it's a good indicator of how strong that individual is. So we measured all the old people and their grip strength. And we watched what happened over the 6 weeks. We measured it halfway. We wanted to get a feeling. And you probably, if you saw the program, you'll see that change had already begun after 3 weeks. Couldn't believe the change in mood, the change in activity. The little ones were bounding in each day with and greeting the older people. But that change, a lot of people are asking, if we were setting up a project like this, what if? And I'm sure you're sitting there thinking, little children with older adults, infection. Aren't these little children going to bring in all kinds of infection to the older people? Actually, it works the other way around as well. Little children are exposed to the older people. So people are wondering what's going to happen. And then health and safety. Older people fall over. Actually, so do little children. They fall over too. Weren't they going to fall over each other? Weren't the children going to fall? The older people going to fall over the toys and everything like that? Real health and safety issues. So the problems mounted. How are you going to manage all of this? How are we going to solve them? But you already heard that they have been solved by a lot of people. They've found resources. What about resources? Where's the money going to come from? Who's going to fund it? Who's going to supply all the equipment that we're going to need? The staff. We have staff who are looking after older people. Are they suddenly going to be able to look after children as well? And the nursery nurses, they're not used to looking after older people. Are they going to have to work with older people as well? And what's going to happen? The parents, naturally. If any of you have children, I heard a little one earlier, the anxiety that people had about the little children going in and what might happen. The older people, would they really understand how to treat their little ones? It worked both ways. And then, there are people, they're enthusiasts like myself, who go in and think, this is a great idea. Let's do it. And in the audience already, I've met people who are really excited and actually started, I'm delighted to hear it, actually started doing this program. What happens if they leave? Where's that groundswell of momentum going to come from? And so it went on. The enthusiasts leave, and the program could fall away. But I'm here to say there are solutions, and it works. You can embed the program in the institution, get the buy-in. Once people see what happens, and I'm telling you, all of the older people who we measured as being depressed, and some were significantly depressed, 2 significantly depressed, all of their depression scores changed. They were no longer considered depressed at the end of 6 weeks. Not one of them was measured as depressed after the 6 weeks being with the children. Solution in learning about who the people are you have in front of you. What are the older people interested in? Learn their histories. What can they share? What don't they want to share? So the solution is learning about the children. What do they enjoy doing? What do the older people enjoy doing? Use things that people know about. The children know games. They have stories. The older people also have a history and stories. What can they associate with? But people don't have to do it. They can look at what's happening, offer choice. You don't have to join in. But funnily enough, people wanted to join in. When we'd selected and the volunteers who wanted to come to the program, we had people saying, can we join you? Because they could see what was happening and the change that it was bringing. You can train people to deal with different age groups. A nursery nurse will quite happily work alongside someone in a care home who does general caring. They can talk and collaborate and say what works for them. And the planning. Plan ahead. But you know what? I'm standing here because I think Guernsey can make a difference in this area. So this is my call for action for all of you. I said at the start of my slide, let's revolutionise the connections. I have an idea of where some of your nurseries are. I have some idea where some of your nursing homes are. They're not all of them. I don't know where they all are. But they're not very far away. That's what I do know. They're very close to each other. And if each and every one of us in this room, and I have to say each and every one of you that live in Guernsey, could set out to identify every older person who's living alone or in isolation, you could change the face of Guernsey and that face of depression that I mentioned. Guernsey isn't very far. As I said, I could probably run across the island. If everyone set out to find out where every person, and older adults, living on their own, it can be done. You have the nurseries, you have schools, and already schools have children go into nursing homes. They perform for older adults. It's not just about performing, though. What this programme is about is doing things together. There's a lot to learn together and to be active together. It only took us 6 weeks to change the lives of 11 people. They got up, their walking test, the one I mentioned, the timed up and go, all of them had improved their walking scores. In fact, so much so, some of the ones who did their timed up and go test with a rollator left their rollator behind. They just got up and walked. The children would come in, they forgot they had a walking stick because the children took their hand and off they went. It's absolutely mind-blowing to see the change in some of the adults. They even had a sports day. Can you imagine? A sports day. They had a sports... The children, they teamed up. Each of the children had a resident with them. And they had competitions, races. They were saying, that the residents were saying, can't remember the last time I ran. As soon as a child hands yours, let's go, we've got to compete. They were off. Absolutely wonderful to see. So, the benefits. We were concentrating on the older people. There are benefits on both sides. For the children, they learn about normal ageing. They accept disability. The parents tell us they see older people in the supermarkets and they walk up to them and start a conversation. No qualms whatsoever. They have an extended family. No fear of old age. They get a lot of love. They get personal love, individual love. For the older people, that intergeneration connectivity. They are interacting rather than sitting alone in their rooms. They play, they laugh, they run. But more importantly, not only are they role models and they teach the children, their mood changes. They have hope. And that's something all of them. One resident said, the residential home was being like God's waiting room. Ready to die, waiting to die. That's how it felt. When the children came, they changed all that. So, for me, I missed one slide. That's what I'd like Guernsey to look like. Where there's everyone included and no one's left behind because you're all working together and making that revolution in connecting the older people with the young people. And I'd like to thank you for listening and to thank the University of Birmingham.